You can stay in your delusion. You can stay in your crib. You can stay in your feedback. You can stay beyond your welcome. Go out back, find the alligator. Go out front with the machine gun. Tell everyone how nice they are. I don't know you. Not anymore. I don't know you. Not anymore. 'Cause when I asked you, everything was fine. When I asked you, all was divine.
Irrational, repetitious.
You're deluded. Deluded. You're deluded. You're deluded. I would like to know what went wrong back then. Why do they all stare? You made me into a pariah because I wouldn't lie. You made me an outcast because I wouldn't be your little bitch. Your little bitch. You made me a liar because you all lied.
Shotguns are out.
And now I'm not going to listen. Not anymore. I made you into a scarecrow. You tame the alligator with your machine gun. All the lilies of the field were dead 'cause of you. Lie, lie.
Welcome. Greetings in the name of the Most High. Well, I wish I, had better news, but, there's not much you can do really to fix stupid and to fix coward. And, people that go against the corporatocracy get canceled. And they get made into an outcast. So I would say at this rate, America, there's no question America's gone at this point. It took just one COVID and a bunch of compliance. course, we knew it was sort of ripe for that, and it could go either way. There may be a respite, but some of the funny. I just want to recount some of the funny things that have happened since we've been reporting on the planned pandemic. We gave you play-by-play, blow-by-blow, what was happening with the spread. Predicted the second spread. They came faster because Trump was having rallies. And they couldn't have that. But it's okay that they're out protesting and burning your country down, and you're not allowed out to stop it. But you comply and sit there. I mean, we all do. Yeah, I'll take another, Josh. So, what we're trying to do today is go over a couple of the funny things that, the take a knee thing is perhaps one of the most hilarious and idiotic things that has ever, it's right up there with the mask and some of the other things. The Juden star for the Jews in Nazi Germany. Just wear it. It's for your own good. Really, and I'm trying, I'm really I've been here this whole time warning about all this, about what happens to people on a spiritual level, right? See, nothing is a surprise. This thing has to fall because it's a murder factory, right? And it's basically an adrenochrome harvesting situation, celebrity idol worship, and we worship idols that kill children and drink adrenochrome, and think that that's funny. Now, when I was a child, of course, having known that was all true. And unfortunately, having been there, I knew, even like at 2 years old, memory of between 2 and 3 comes up of, having of human sacrifice and things like that. I even knew back then that was all wrong, and that adults raping, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, whatever, I knew that was wrong. And at no time did I think, well, you better go along to get along, because, otherwise you wind up dead. It was not well, what would get along mean, and what it means. And I think we need to get into the because everybody else is talking a bunch of gibberish today. Have you noticed? Nobody's getting to the bottom of anything anymore. It's just like they're they're just completely conquered. They're conquered. They have no faith. The bottom line is, you can't turn a blind eye to that, or this is what's going to happen to you. This, what you see on television, the burning of your country while you stand idly by with no help from anyone. That's what judgment looks like. How many prophets have come and gone? How many people warned America? How many people, even with common sense said, keep going like this with a 2-tier justice system, with no justice for children that are being exploited, enslaved, and murdered, and, with impunity, that at some point the chickens would come home to roost. So why is this a surprise? It could have just been a nuclear bombs on every city, and that would be the end of you and me and the whole thing. And, maybe that would have really been justice. But the problem is, in a situation like that, not enough people suffer. Right? Flash bang and you're dead. There's no suffering in that. Now, I think people in America are beginning to suffer Maybe not as much as they will be when there's, the food lines and the soup lines, which Bernie Sanders said he can't wait. He loves it when there's food lines. People, when he said that publicly, people just turned a blind eye to that. Like, the guy loves food lines. What more do you need to know? He's backing, People have asked, why now does the Democrat Party seem to be the party of corruption and the burning down and the stealing of money and the bankruption and raising of taxes? Because they are crypto Marxists. Not even that crypto. They've always been that. And then before that, they were the party of slavery, Jim Crow, slaughtering of Indians. You name it, they're into it. If it's corrupt, they're doing it. And then the Republicans are basically corrupt in another way. They're, the warmongers and all look the other way on, they complain about abortion, but they all look the other way because abortion is organ harvesting and big money. And big money talks. Because the god of this country is money. The god of this country is celebrity. And the reason, I'm sorry if I sound a little bit nihilistic, it's because 2/3 of this country, 2/3 agree with the WHO, Fauci, the whole thing, popular culture. 2/3 agree with this sort of corporate instilled Marxism. 2/3 agree with woke, meaning countries should have never been founded. All people are inherently racist, and white people should be eliminated from the earth. You're starting to see it in the Netflix and the other things. You'll be seeing. You'll be seeing that skewed storytelling, which means that there will be no storytelling, only propaganda. The racist thing has got nothing to do with libertarian conservative people that are just trying to make a living, God-fearing people, whatever. It's got nothing to do with that. It has to do with winning this war. So they do it with race baiting and race division. And then one of the problems they have is that they have to cook it up because as communications have improved in the world and, online communications and intermarriages with different lots and lots more mixed race people than ever before, it's getting harder to make the assertion of racism. It's almost like it's a mythology folklore. You have to really tap into it now. You got to tap into the 1960s. You got to tap into other times. So this weird vibe is that, the longer that real racism gets put into the rearview mirror, the more that many people, no, wait, we got to reach for that. We need that to get our political ends. Most of the people pushing racism are white, pushing against white people. And now I don't see any traitors. I don't see any race. I don't see colors. Fuck colors. Everybody's got a history. I mean, there are people of all different colors, enslaved, this and that, bad times. In my family, lots of suicides and, just a lot of tragedy, a lot of hard things in every family, in everyone's life. But mass communication, not that it heals anything, but you realize, people realize the differences they have with each other isn't much, if anything. And when they realize that, you see, then the race bait, the guys dividing us all, can't stop us from getting together. And when we get together, then they freak out. Then they're upset, and then they knock the game board over. Then they start burning the cities. Then they knock the economy out. Then they attack. Instead of a nuclear bomb, they attacked with COVID. Because things were going in the right direction. And when I say right direction, I mean Marxism equals poverty. Everywhere in the world where there is Marxist, witchcraft, godless God-rejecting, do-it-thou-well people. They're all in poverty. Conquered, enslaved. What's the whole point of the Satanists? Is to enslave you or turn you over to someone more powerful to enslave you. And what do you do when you're enslaved? You obey. You obey what you're told. You do what you're told. You do what you're told. You do what you're told. They all take a knee. Coaches and everybody now. Really, if there is a way that we would have a war with China and they could nuke that stadium, I think I'd be all in favor of it. Those people have no morals, no conviction, no gumption, no individuality, no guts, only cowards and slaves, real slaves. But they wouldn't be like that unless they were meant to unless they, took a bow on both knees, on bended knees to Satan. That's the only way. Because every single one of those people is going to burn. Because this thing is going to go out of control, and it's going to burn those stadiums up. It's going to burn those teams up. It's going to burn the TV wires up. It's going to burn the country down. Because they need to suffer for what they've done. The Lord hates fakery. When you have faux culture, faux woke, faux this, faux that, faux race, faux all this stuff, it's going to be destroyed. Oh, and how do you get back on track? There is no getting back on track, man. The country's gone. Trump failed. And what he was trying to do as a capitalist. I mean, take away all the orange man bad and all the other fervor that these idiots provoke. And all this, he was in bed with Epstein. I mean, yeah, he was in bed with Epstein. I don't think he was humping children, but now that's all on the table that he was, a pedophile, even though he's interdicted more pedophiles than anybody in history. But that's okay. He's, don't worry. You'll be, at the rate it's going now, there'll be no orange man. No, you're going to get what you deserve. In a way. I mean, I'm trying to figure a way to get out of here because I don't feel any. I would feel loyalty to America if America existed. If people existed who would defend this country against invaders, against and try to have a culture. And try to have a country. If there were people like that, I mean, the Marxists, they don't want that. It's corporatocracy. Corporatocracy. Global transnational corporations instilling Marxism as a system and to inject everyone with quantum dots, hooking them up to AI, changing them from human into hybrid. How long do I have to be warning about hybridization? Hybrid, 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 hybrid. Not human, not human, not human, not human, not human. But they're going to do it. They're going to take those injections and those ID 2020s and those 60606s. And they're gonna line up for it because it's gonna mean that life gets back to normal. But check and mate, man. Check and mate. The whole goal of Satan, which I know all this, you guys don't really realize it. All you stupid secular people, the people who run your life, who cut your paycheck, they worship Satan, whether you do or not, or you believe in some intellectualism or Bertrand Russell or, or Nietzsche or whatever you believe in, doesn't matter. They believe in it. They follow it. They worship it. They create it. And I doubt very seriously any of you so-called pseudo-intellectuals have ever figured out what's going on. But since we're decrying the end of America, all right, how are you all liking watching the president just stand by while it burns to the ground? He puts in a few feds, everybody screams, "Oh no, oh my God, you're frightening the citizen, oh no," as they rape, kill, and plunder, break everything and burn everything. Oh no, they're going to stop us from breaking the window. Oh no, oh, I'm scared. They're taking people away in unmarked cars. Oh no. Unfortunately, that's about all the power Trump has. He doesn't really have power. The military has already disobeyed, broken command chain. So he's not commander-in-chief anymore. And they're going to get I'm looking forward to them actually having no Trump. And then let's see what they complain about then as they're told to get in line and get in the food. You think they're going to start cutting checks like stimulus stuff and keep the economy going and all that when that happens? Hell no! It's going to be food lines, baby. And guess what? In New Mexico, the food banks are already out of food. Yeah, baby. Watch them starve. Just like in Pakistan. Yeah, we have to watch people starve. You give your money to LTO, and then you're going to have people starving here in America you're going to have to take care of. So eventually it all runs out and everybody starves. And that's because wherever Marxism is implemented, it's always the aristocracy, the rich people of the world, the bloodline elites, the banking cartel, the establishment that implements the Marxism to the woke generation who wants freedom and equality and social justice, which they get neither one of those things, or they get none of those things. Because the corporatocracy is always the one, the aristocracy is always the one that is implementing it to keep the stupid people down and barring them from social justice forever. Barring them from, let them be woke and take a knee and do all this symbolic stuff to make it feel like they got some social justice for the errors of the past, especially the white people who are, on behalf of the black people, doing the activism. Next, they're going to start committing mass suicide to accommodate, which I'm sure blacks who are not humans, like whites who are not humans. You know what it is to be human? I mean, you're human, right? You see someone suffering, that's bad. Doesn't matter what color they are, right? You realize how ridiculous all that is, right? That's a human. Any variation of that is a propagandized slave, a mental midget, an IQ less than a shoe size. So I've got to predict. No, I'm not really angry. That's it for the fervor. I'm not going to get all lathered up. What's done is done. So there's no warning anymore. What's done is done. And I'm just going to see how you people like it. Where are the bikers? Weren't the bikers supposed to show up and turn around Seattle? And Trump has this little sort of Keystone Cop police force of the feds. 10 people here, 10 people there. Albuquerque is it's funny, where I take my RV for service is right in the middle of the shooting zone. That's the crime zone where the I-40 comes into Albuquerque, and then of course it meets the 25. So that hub is big for the cartels, and that's why Albuquerque is Albuquerque's a very mediocre kind of laid back town, but the crime is off the charts. Most of it from Mexico. Because people come up from Juarez, and then the drugs come up from Juarez up to 25, and then goes east and west on the Route 66, right, the 40, then up to Denver, then from Denver out to 70 up into the northeast, and then west out into the northwest. And so it's a hub. And of course, that's also slaves. Child sex trafficking is huge, and even though it's been interdicted, it's still raging. We have yet to adjudicate, Hollywood. The reason that so many of these guys got involved in structural Satanism and child sacrifice, the reason they did is because they were, and I know there's no excuse, I'm not trying to make an excuse for them, but they were told that there was no other way to be a star. In fact, they make examples out of ones that don't, they could have made twice the records or movies or whatever it is they do, or sports too is involved. They could have done twice or 5 times, or, you know what I mean? They'll show a guy who's like the best actor in town in LA or something. Say someone like a Gary Oldman, or I don't know, even like Mel Gibson made an example of that. They're not really participating. In fact, they're exposing it, if anything. And, then they're made an example. They could have had a much better career. They could have been this. They could have, there's this weird, this sick kind of, again, peer pressure that goes on. And that's the same thing with like the woke culture. And woke is not awakened. Woke just means you're hip to the cultural Marxism and race baiting, and you're cool. You understand what's going on, and you're down with it. It doesn't mean that social justice. It doesn't mean adjudication. It certainly doesn't mean stopping any form of. So they say, well, what's wrong with pedophilia? Well, is there something wrong with child sacrifice? Don't partition off one aspect of the worship of Satan, of the devil, which is human sacrifice. Don't, and cannibalism and all that. Don't cordon that off from, say, pedophilia. Say, here's pedophilia, but that's benign, and over here, that's wrong. No, it's all part of the same soup. It's all part and parcel of the same thing. You can't have one without the other. If one's there, the other's there. And that lifestyle and that way of life that so many millions and millions of Americans are part of, not just celebrities, okay? Puts people in the position of being slaves. Now, that form of slavery, that spiritual slavery, that is of your own free will. And one must thoroughly reject any form of God or Jesus or all that, just like, oh, we don't need religion. We have man. But see, that in itself is satanic and part of the religion. That the bulk people don't know what's at stake or what's being worshipped. They don't know. They think they should worship each other as celebrities, when that's not what's going on. No, it's not like a single entity Satan exactly. It's a little more complex than that, but it is it's not exactly Babylonian religion or Sumerian religion or going back to Egyptian religion or Eastern. It's not a syncretism of like Madame Blavatsky and Gurdjieff and these other people have presented in the occult and their theosophical societies and so forth and so on, and et cetera, and boring, dumb, stupid. Yes, no, it's not that. Dumb, stupid is right. I got kicked out of the Theosophical Society. I went there when it was in, I forget where it was. It was wasn't far from the Griffith Park. Same thing with the Philosophical Society. I went into the Philosophical Society to look at some of the books, and they wouldn't let me touch them. They're like, you're asking all the wrong questions. Well, like, how well did Jolyon West communicate with Manly P. Hall? Is there a connection between mind control experiments, what's going on at JPL, and Satanism? Is there a connection between high technology, the manipulation of time and space, the creation of this simulacrum that we live in that we call the Truman Show? Is there some connection with Satanism, with beings from another dimension, in other words? Is there a connection between NASA and beings from another world? Or the military-industrial complex and beings from another world? And why are they so involved in abducting children? Children. Why do they abduct children? Why is every MUFON meeting that you would go to, where someone's giving testimony of what they did for the aliens, involves somehow military-industrial complex, military helicopters? And why are they aiding and abetting the aliens in abducting children? Children. Children. Why is the Baphomet statue that's being allowed to be there? Of course, no one's going to touch that, right? They dare not. Why does that have a little boy and girl looking up lovingly and hypnotically and completely entranced and under the control of Baphomet children? Why has nobody taken that one down? If it's, I don't know if it's, is it up? I've seen pictures of it. I don't know if it's, what? Why doesn't someone take a smack at that as opposed to say, some dead guy named Columbus? Because see, that is what rules America. 2/3. And why are all these people thinking they're so smart when they enslave themselves? Why is that? Is it the same thing like when you're in a gang, you feel tough because you're in the gang? Is that it? You feel tough because you're in the gang? Even though you're a slave, you can feel tough, like you can go insult people and demand reparations. I'm just waiting for white people to start demanding reparations for themselves on behalf of blacks. We haven't seen that yet. So, obviously a house of cowards cannot stand, right? You can look at baseball, football, whatever, you're seeing nothing but cowards. Why would I pay to see some coward run around with a football? Someone without a backbone. No, I watched a movie, wasn't all that great, but God bless Angus McFadgen, is that how you pronounce it? Larry told me, the director, he directed Angus in a movie that he did called She Rises. Anyway, he did a movie called, I think, Robert the Bruce. It's on, whatever. Gosh, I spent all this money for this Hughes satellite. I can't get anything to stream anymore. Anyway, I've got a dish too. When you're rural, you have to have all these. Yeah, I'm just trying to, I'm going back to, what I'm going to do? I'm just going to start a Blu-ray collection. And I need a bigger screen and, yeah, I got a 65 and I sat real close to it. It's 4K. But it doesn't have the color palette that HDR has, which is what I want. Anyway, shoot, I lost my darn train of thought. What was I talking about, Trish? I think I lost my train of thought here. I was Oh, Angus. Okay. Well, he called Robert the Bruce, and really what it was about, and it's on. I guess I saw it on the. I'm not sure on the dish. I'm not really sure where I saw it. It might have been on Amazon Prime. I'm not. I'm really not sure. But I saw it, and there were some. I could take issue with it here and there, but given the context, it was about a man that was wounded, who was supposed to be the King of Scotland, and who kind of gave up. Told people to go home. He said the fighters are all tired. They're not ready to fight for Scotland. And he was alone in the winter, and he got shot with an arrow and heavily wounded. He would have died, but he was found with his family who lost their father fighting for Robert the Bruce. And they took care of him, and they brought him back to health. And they finally eventually figured out it was Robert the Bruce. It was literally the King of Scotland. I mean, the de facto king in absentia. And, and he was teaching the kids, that get better with the bow and arrow because, they're going to come to try to get him. Because there was a reward from the King of England for something like, 50 gold pieces, something like that. And so it's very endearing. It's about how he was kind of like being a father to the kids. And, it was just this, it wasn't big battle scenes and Mel Gibson and, Braveheart and all that. They did talk about how William Wallace failed. William Wallace made it pretty far, got people pretty riled up, won a lot of battles, but he himself paid the price. He didn't deliver Scotland to... So it was up to Robert the Bruce, who took the baton after that. And if I'm botching history, you Scott's Files, I'm sorry. I'm just taking notes from the movie here. And so it was about like family, you know what I mean? It was about there was his wife and the kids and the missing father because wounded in battle, and then he became the father, and about instilling values in those kids about courage and what it is to be a man and all that, good stuff. And, gosh, I thought to myself, how did, and then I realized that Angus was also, he was a producer and a co-writer. So I realized, he had a lot to do with this. So I kind of know his heart. I was figuring, well, gosh, the guy, here he's made the cardinal sin of family values, teaching the kids, how to use weapons for hunting, for war, for survival. And they're living out in the country where they're all vulnerable to robbers and things like that. And, becoming restored himself, and then taking up his sword eventually to re-lead the Scottish warriors to ultimate freedom. And apparently he was responsible for having Scotland have some modicum of, even though still under the UK is the UK, but I mean some modicum of freedom for Scots in the sense that Scotland's recognized as a separate country, which was largely because of the fighting, bloodshed. Unfortunately, to have that distinction, have that Scotland is free, people had to fight with swords and bows and arrows and things like that. People died, blood was shed for freedom. And so I thought, boy, this Angus guy, if they ever get wind of him in Hollywood or some woke place, they're going to just call him a racist and, obviously because he likes the family. He's a homophobe, right? He's a xenophobe completely. He's awful in every way because he wanted to take care of a family and fight for freedom. That makes him a complete pariah who should be boycotted forever. Cancel everything. Cancel his life. Because we can see from that movie, we have a real threat. We have a real problem with that. In the future, after we burn down America, we're going to have complete say over the movies, just like a Netflix. It's all going to be propaganda from now on. It's all going to be about making people adjust to the new ethics, the way to really be polite in a satanic society called Marxism is you do not judge. You don't use discernment. You don't prefer or not prefer. You're told what to prefer. You're told what to think. And if you start trying to assert the truth, you'll be squashed like a bug on a windshield so fast you won't even know what happened. Don't you ever take inspiration from someone fighting for freedom or truth or real justice. No. Social justice, yes. Real justice, no. Before you know it, you keep that up, you're going to start arresting all the child traffickers and murderers. And we can't have that, because then who would we put on TV? But at least I'm happy that, all this stuff is, that used to lock you up in jails, mental hospitals, or just kill you for, now at least is on the tip of the tongue of everybody. You know what I mean? It's like right there. So they're scrambling to burn the cities down and create all this chaos so that it will obscure the legal system from doing what it might have to do. They also have the entire Justice Department, everybody else blackmailed, so nothing happens. The president, meanwhile, watches America burn and pushes vaccines. And if it goes down like that, that's, I hate to think what's going to happen to everyone after December or in January. You'd probably be killed in your homes. And it'll be legal. Sadly, most Americans won't defend themselves. They'll just sit there and let themselves be killed. Or maybe even kill themselves if they're told to. All for the cause of fairness and equality, social justice, and true democracy. Two-thirds of America want to bow their knees. When you take a knee, what it means is you're taking a knee to global Marxism. You're taking a knee against an anti-Americanism. In other words, you're willing to tear it down and destroy it completely. You are turning against the country that you were brought up in, and that's what taking a knee means. It doesn't mean social justice for black people at all. It never did. That was a front or a ruse to put the real movement, global Marxism, into place so that the very wealthy of the world could rule, and the people that sucked up to them might be given a few crumbs, and they can rule over the, like the mayors and the governors, keeping the people locked down against their will and anti-constitutionally, while Trump does nothing. If Trump really were serious about the Constitution and about what happened with the lockdown, he would go to these states and tell these governors, knock it off or you're arrested. He has every right to arrest the governors and the mayors. Every right. Especially under martial law. And if it had to go to right now, I'd say it's time for martial law. Because obviously, if it goes any further, unless you just want to burn it all and starve to death. But most people they'll be eating each other. I just want to warn you. The next thing you're going to see is cannibalism. And, complete total lawlessness. In my book, Lamb, because I always know this is their plan, I let everybody out of the prisons. The governors, let everybody out of the prisons. I was ahead of them, wasn't I? Wasn't I? And what they do, they took over the cities. And they made everybody kowtow to them as they ran it into the ground. Because criminals don't build anything. They just tear. Marxists don't do it. Cultural Marxists, they just tear down. They don't build. They don't know how to build. We had a builder. Because of I think the success of the economy is why China and the Marxists went nuts. But really it's an attack on China. If I were the president, even though we might all die, probably I would not value life more than, honor. And that's what makes me dangerous. I think if you live a life on your knees, you're good for nothing anyway. Might as well go out in a blaze of glory. I mean, might as well just have, nuked the entire Chinese Navy is what I wanted to do. Because in their Navy yards, they're building hundreds of ships, right? All those works in progress, gone. Then let's see what they do. I say you lay a hand on one of our cities, Beijing is vapor. Okay, go ahead. Let's see who survives. Tee it up, asshole. Of course, that's me. That's why I'm not president. I would have brought it to a head a long time ago. If we're going to have a bloodbath, if we're going to have a conflict or a war, we're going to slowly watch these cities get burnt down. Why not just get it over with? And the reason is because, and I hate to tell you this, there is no cavalry coming. There are no groups of patriots out there. There are more guns in the hands of people here than ever before, but they're busy taking a knee. So, yeah, there's really nothing you can do about it. The spiritual underpinnings for all this are there with, obviously decadence, selfishness, cowardice, godlessness, hate, and that has led to, a breakdown. And I'm certainly not against. I mean, the other thing about reparations, and some guy like I forget this rapper guy, he had it up to like, I don't know, $300 trillion his own reparations. I was like, well, I could use some reparations myself for things that happened to me, where my life was taken away from me, and I was, unfairly treated. And there's no question that, slavery is bad and, that obviously then we should be attacking the Muslims who continue to enslave and trade slaves. Shouldn't we go after them too? No, that means you're racist. That obscures the issue. So that's racist. Well, then maybe we should never say anything. Maybe we should just line up and take a chainsaw and cut all our heads off. Exactly. You should offer your necks. And even that won't be enough for reparations. Well, what would be enough? You need to kill everyone to the last man. And even kill the last man, too. And then still that won't be enough. Well, what is the grudge? Obviously, it's not racism. So what is it? Indeed. That's why we need salvation. We would kill each other down to the last man. I really think in terms of America, I understand why they're doing it. I mean, I even have compassion for that. I fully understand why we have this woke culture, taking a knee, reparation, with all this cloak and dagger around the Marxist issue, which is the rich man issue. I understand why rich white men are running this whole thing as a eugenics operation and, preparing to obviously cleanse the world of genetic deficiency. Yes, I understand all these levels, all these layers, and I understand that if I say it's not about racism, then I'm a racist. If it's not about sexism, I'm a sexist. If it's not about this or that or their favorite pet thing, then I'm that pet thing, then I'm that pariah. I am no pariah. I'm simply telling you the truth. I'm not a pariah at all. I should be welcomed because I tell the truth. And the truth is this. So long as we harbor the murder of children and sacrifice of children to Molech and have this, sort of crypto Satanism going on, the nation will not only not be blessed, but it will cease to be. Gee, is there an echo? I'm just echoing what other people have come here to America and said. Now, that being said, America has been generous and helpful, and people have. There's been a good side too, but I noticed something else too that was very troubling. Once Trump took the war away and started withdrawing our troops, saying he doesn't want to be involved in constant wars like Bush and Obama and, all of them, all the other presidents. I noticed that we started taking it out. We started getting into domestic war. And I started thinking to let the air out of the balloon, we need to find someone to bomb, No, I'm being very cynical here, and I don't mean it. I mean a little facetious as well. But in other words, we need a war. And China starts bubbling up. And it's like, yeah, a little relief. Let's get going with China or maybe Iran. Because now I understand why we have to be, have hundreds and thousands of troops and trillions of dollars in Iran and these other places. We need war. We need to export war, or it's going to be fought inside our borders. We either export it or we get killed by it. By what? It will kill us. What's it? It's the thing behind the war. The natural nature of man, it will kill us. So we have these layers. The corporate mind control Truman Show layer is woke, right? I.e., think tanks and Marxist instilled propaganda to turn people into thinking they're woke, that we need social justice, when what they're doing is implementing their fairness and equality of global enslavement and totalitarianism. Do you understand that much? Do you understand 1984, Brave New World, any of that stuff? Orange man bad, huh? Well, I've call him as I see him. Orange man awful right now. In fact, I can't even look at him on television without taking out a 357 and putting a bullet hole in the TV. So I don't want to do that. So I don't watch. Because I can't stand, the cuckolding of this guy that was a maverick and doing what he wanted to do and, trying to fix, the capitalism, employment, whatever. Because Marxism makes everybody poor. Nobody gets anywhere. You die, probably starvation, like in Venezuela. But I mean, he was getting that stuff going, and I told you that's the cardinal sin. And all the Never Trumpers were the main Never Trumpers were Republicans, and that's okay. I'm just recounting history. At this point, though, since the COVID, he got rolled. He's been cuckolded ever since. And, people say, oh, no, he's going to make a comeback. Folks, the bikers are not going to show up. The Hells Angels are not going to show up in Seattle and stop the chop business and all that. The Patriots, with all their guns, are probably what's going to happen is the UN will be here confiscating guns as soon as the Democrats get full power of the Congress, the Senate, and the White House. They will be confiscating guns finally. And like Australia, something along those lines. And the people all the Patriots and Bullets and the NRA and all that, They vilify all those people while they're handing out bucket loads, trunk loads of AR-15s to illegally, by the way, to rioters who are not supposed to have unregistered weapons, especially military weapons. And some of these coming over from China are not, kosher. Some may be fully automatic. And they get all the guns handed out like candy. Did you see any interdiction? Did you see any arrest by ATF? Did you even see the ATF? Was the ATF anywhere near those guns? The answer is no. Negatory. Not at all. They were not there because they approve of it. The military approves of it. The ATF approves of it. The FBI approves of it. The CIA is quarterbacking it, engineering it. The overthrow of the United States to fold it into the global Marxism one world government that will be 1984, the totalitarianism for all, unless you're an elite that sucks ass and moves your way up the ladder so you can be somebody lording it over and hurting the little people below your feet. I think it's disgusting. It only can exist with cowardice. And America had it was the only way they could succeed here is if 2/3 of the people are cowards and willing slaves. The only way they could get to be those things is if when they were teenagers or sometime earlier in their lives, they were inducted into the collective, into the satanic system, into Satanism, structurally, meaning free will, and they've been a slave ever since, so it wasn't a big stretch for them to fully be exposed as cowards and slaves and fools. Apparently 3/4 or 2/3 of the people like Dr. Fauci, a man who's contradicted himself every other sentence. And they like that. We know, of course, that Fauci stands to gain billions and billions of dollars into his own account when the vaccine goes through. But that doesn't matter to these people because they're too stupid to figure that much out. Doing research is a white man thing, and that's racist. Looking at any kind of truth or alternative point of view on the internet, that's something white people do, so that's racist. Working and digging into the truth and things like that, digging and working and having a work ethic is a white man's thing, and that's racist. So that the only thing that really makes sense is to do nothing, think nothing, do what you're told, be programmed, be out there in the streets when you're told to be there, and help to bring about this revolution so you too one day can live in utopia, which will never come and has never come in the history of the world. Thank you very much. You're not allowed to look at the history of the world because that's a white man thing to do. White people are the ones that look at history, not anybody else. Therefore, it's racist. Don't do it. Don't look at history as repeating patterns or possible mistakes we may be making. This is going to be a utopia, except that what we tell you is truth as the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth is what we say, not what you discern. Understand? Thinking is a white man's thing. Stop that, racist. Researching, thinking, work ethic, discipline, all those things. And of course, all the different people in all different colors, whoever got anywhere in life, had to do all those things of discipline and self-discipline and research and whatever to move themselves up in their field of either study or sports or whatever it is they're doing. It takes discipline. It takes dedication. It takes focus of thought. It takes it takes a self-sacrifice. Those are not white people things. But just last week they were telling everyone that their think tanks had come up with that as a way to stop them from researching, stop them from work ethic, stop people from functioning, because functioning is racist. I know there's no point in my saying any of this. I just watch. The reason I'm a good writer is because I observe all these things. And when my characters act them out, I don't take sides. I don't do propaganda. I let it play out. I let the Satanists have their say all the way. Oh, yeah, I even defend them. I defend every position. That's what a fiction writer has to do, lie. And I don't lie to people, but I sure lie in my works because see, I don't believe that my point of view should taint the thing. I think it should just play out the way it plays out. Let it just be true. And let every man be a liar. Let God be true and let every man be a liar. Let God be true and every man a liar. So therefore we got to get rid of God. And as Richard Wurmbrand had pointed out so poignantly, the whole point of Marxism, the whole raison d'etre of Satanism and Marxism is to snatch the soul away from God, just at the point of degradation, just at the point where the person's about to give up, just at the point where they've been tortured so much they renounce God and Jesus, just at that point snatch them and kill them then so they can't repent. And they have it down to a science, but they say for the masses there's no God, but for the insiders, yes, we know there's a God, and yes, we want those souls. We must degrade them until they give up God, then snatch them, then kill them at that point before they can really repent, and we win, we win, we win. Make no mistake, that is exactly what they do. And that is exactly what goes on in the prisons and everything else. Marxism is not political, it's spiritual. Marxism is simply a manifestation, a political organizing of Satanism, manifested through political means, period. The point is still the same, to snatch souls from God. It's got nothing to do with economy. It has nothing to do with the distribution of wealth. It has nothing to do with any of those things because the wealth all goes to the rich. To the rich white guys. They're all white. Sorry. They're rich. And they decide. As George Carlin said, they're the owners. And I guess if you attach their slaves, i.e. the bourgeoisie, how many people got rich from being a peasant in France in 1789 during the revolution? Zero. Where did all the money go from the royalty and from killing all the royalty out in the countryside and stealing the chateaus and all the stuff they did? Where did all that money go? The bourgeoisie, the upper middle class to upper class, the traders, the people who trade in goods and services and all that, the global traders, the business people, but they're the monopoly holders. The very people that they didn't want to give money to were the ones that got it all through the force and brute power of the Jacobin club at that time, the club of owners. Who owns all this stuff? Who owns the earth? It's divvied up in the secret societies and bloodlines of the world. And why are they doing this here? Because they want to take back what's theirs, the land, the bank accounts, all of it. They want to take it all back. They say they own it. And they want to divest everyone of whatever they have. And, of course, kill them if necessary, which is always necessary. I have fought against this my whole life. I have studied communism and Marxism in great detail when I was in high school, when I was in college age. And I have been fighting it ever since. But, you know, you can't like you can't fix stupid. I guess for stupid here to learn something, and I suppose my international listeners are probably getting a kick out of this because they saw this happen in their countries. And they've been trying to warn us here. Venezuelans have come here and tried to warn us. Don't let them start changing the street signs and pulling down the statues and putting up other statues, because before you know it, they're going to do to you what they did to Venezuela, was turn it into a hellhole. Venezuela was a burgeoning, Caracas was a real international swinging place. I mean, it was hot economically. It had an oil production base. And people had money. Discretionary income was with all the people. And the communists got in, destroyed it, took over all the businesses, ran them into the ground, and then punished the people for their own ineptitude. And I have struggled and fought. And it seemed like everywhere I went when I was young, like all of Hollywood, everybody was all pro-Marxist, pro-communist. And I couldn't understand. You're living in a big house in Beverly Hills. You got maids. You got, a high-end lifestyle. You've got club affiliations and university degrees and Southern California lifestyle and all that. Why would you want to be a communist? It would threaten they would confiscate this house and kill you. If they haven't tried to already, in this latest round, like in Beverly Hills, right? I mean, they're further and further into the neighborhoods of Beverly Hills. Pretty soon they'll just start killing people. They do it. They kill hundreds of millions of people. Why would you do this to yourself? What was wrong with free market capitalism if there were certain controls in place, anti-monopoly controls, things like that? You know what I mean? Good trade deals, a rising labor market, a labor market that could take care of families without having to have 4 or 5 jobs, but that one job could do it. Wouldn't that be something if wages? And the other thing that was starting to happen, biggest sin of Trump, why he's Orange Man bad and all that, I mean, what really got him in trouble is when the wages started getting up above $15 an hour. Did you notice? That's when they hit us with the COVID. That's when they pulled the plug. Wages were naturally starting to go above that without them being imposed by the government. By, your ruler, I mean, if it goes that way, basically your government would be what the Chinese are telling the people to do. And China would run America then, right? Okay, so we understand that. They say the people need to worship the government, not Jesus, not God. Worship government. In other words, you'd be forced to worship Nancy Pelosi and Biden or whoever's there. You would be worship in Utah. You'd be worshiping Mitt Romney, big anti-Trumper. He hates Orange Man. He himself prides himself on being. You should see his Twitter. He's considers himself to be a righteous man, and he touts Jesus everywhere he goes. It says Jesus, 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 Jesus. Everywhere he goes, Jesus everywhere. Jesus. Now, we went round and round with Romney and La Jolla, right? La Jolla, the secret love affair with Mormons. Yeah, well, I grew up down there, at least in the summers on the beach, and that was really fun, I guess. Well, it probably wasn't for me. I was upset. Nothing was ever good back then. There was always some kind of fight. But anyway, all these Mormon kids would come down there in the hot months of, I guess they'd come down from Utah. And they go to the racetrack and they do all this stuff. And, I wasn't surprised that Romney bought himself a house in by the La Jolla shores. And he had to build an underground basement garage so they could have a lift that would, lift the car down to the next level underneath the house, and they could, park their cars because there's no parking on the street. So I just thought, how well he would fit in there. They've got a huge Mormon temple there off the 5 freeway. You can't miss it. It's got these spires, you know what I mean. It's almost like the Denver airport of cathedrals, right? So it's unmistakable. That's their beachhead for Mormons. That's the beacon for Mormons. And, they were always known for not drinking. Well, it's okay to not drink. I mean, unless it's weird. Like a guy who's drank heavily for a long time and decides, okay, I'm knocking it off. Okay, enough is enough. I've destroyed myself. I've destroyed people. My health is, I think I'm knocking it off. I'm going to straighten up and fly right. Now, that guy I totally understand and trust, right? That's a good guy, right? Right? You understand that guy. But it's hard to understand the Mormon. Seriously, I'm making it, I guess, a religious slur. I don't really mean to. It's hard to really trust any Mormon. As my grandmother said, if they're not going to drink with you, you can't trust them. And they're going to have club soda. Every time. It's not going to be like there was a binge, right? Then it's cleared up. Or there was all kinds of, wild living, and then, then there was sort of peace and sobriety. You know what I mean? That's a person that's been through these battles with alcohol and drugs, and, and when they straighten up, it's a beautiful thing. It's almost like another drug. Right? You can trust them, too, because, there's been that history of wrestling with the devil. The devil doesn't wrestle with Mormons. There's no wrestling. I noticed that when we were kids. A funny thing, we were kids, and the Mormon kids. It was funny. They were good kids. There was no sex going on, none of that. They were like good kids. That people would joke about the girls. Oh, that's a Mormon. You can't get anywhere with that. Remember comedy a long time ago? Well, comedy is canceled by Marxists. Cancel culture is Marxist. It's a purely Marxist operation. Nobody else would cancel culture except Marxists who want totalitarian rule, but what they really want is thought control and mind control rule. Left and right should come together on this issue of Marxism and the police state, because Marxism is a police state. You ever notice how the Marxists end up wearing military uniforms, the leaders? Yeah, don't you understand what's happening to you? All the cultural leaders in China, they all have their little military outfits on, and who are they at war with? They're at war with the people, with free thought, with God, with spirit, with spirituality. They're at war with a simple question like this. What is this life about? Why am I here? Is there a God? Was I created? Do I have a purpose? Is there something I'm supposed to do here? Is there some way I can get an answer? That is the enemy of Marxism right there. And someone that thinks like that is not welcome. Meaning you ask questions. I've gotten kicked out of more things asking questions than putting forth answers or being didactic or being like I am here, which is pretty much an authoritarian. I'm pretty much authoritarian over my own views at the time, and I'm willing to change them. As Trump changes, I've definitely changed. I go with the change. I don't say it's all bad until I start seeing evidence that things are in real trouble there with Trump, and I mention it. Seeing the pushing of Bill Gates vaccines is for me a deal breaker, and obviously my John Wayne guy, he did great interdicting, things, economic changes, trade deals. But since COVID, we've been going straight down the tubes. It was good before that, bad after. He didn't handle that well. Now, what would the Z-Man have done? The Z-Man would have put you all in jeopardy. That's why I'm not president. I would have said, let's grow a pair and go get China, And along with China, we'll arrest Gates and Fauci and all the Wuhan lab people. That would be my first order of business. But I couldn't do it if the military was telling me to shut up, little boy, and go back in your little Oval Office while we figure out what's going on. If that was going on with me, I would resign. Ha! And I put a middle finger in the military-industrial complex's face, and I would tell the American people what was going on and why we can't ever arrest anybody, why the people above the law remain above the law, why there is no justice here in this country. The real lack of justice is for the elites. That's where the real lack of justice is. And they're the ones that run the Marxists and the cultural Marxists and the corporatocracy and the international cabal of bankers that wants you poor or dead. Now, I can't keep being a broken record on this. Along with Satanism, I've exposed the Marxism from the beginning. I don't think the actors in Hollywood know what I'm talking about. I don't think when Ronald Reagan was a communist, he even knew what I was talking about. I don't think half these actors know even. I don't want to start cussing, but I just don't think they know much. They have influence because we were told to worship idols. We've been doing idolatry. We worship celebrity. Does that mean that they know anything? If you had a discussion with them about Marxism or showed the big black book of communism or tried to expose any of this stuff, they would say you're a propagandist. You're just being an elite yourself. You're not for justice for all people. You're not for equality, a true socialist world solution. The one who said they were going to install socialism for the world 3 years ago was Bill Gates. You think he's going to become a socialist? No, but he said he's instilling it for the entire world. Socialism and mass vaccination. Those, i.e. the quantum dot ID connected to AI. That is what so I just write it up in sci-fi screenplays, and things that I'm writing, I just show you what it's like when your city burns to the ground and locusts come to eat you. And why would that happen? These people are innocent. No, we're not innocent. If they came here to kill me, even if I took a few of them with me, and I had to die, I know exactly why I had to die. Because I have not done a good enough job here. I have not really helped my fellow man awaken. I have not really truly helped to educate people as to the danger of mind control, of programming, of being cloned. And when I say cloned, I mean literally and consciousnessly, or consciousness-wise. That's what I mean. That your thoughts are not your own. Your head is not your own. Your consciousness is not your own. But it was made for you to fit in so that you wouldn't question. So you go along day after day and die on cue and shut the F up and quit questioning and be grateful and worship your leaders and worship your celebrities and worship your television. And that's how they got us, pretty much through television. Anybody who thinks, and all the elites, they're in bed with the Chi-Coms, and they want the Chi-Com way of life, and they worked on it with Google and with all big tech. They're all in bed with China, and the whole idea is to spread Chinese-style Marxism to the whole world, to be the system that runs the world. Xi Jinping himself has said, "I am the de facto ruler of the new world order. I will rule it. Anyone that disagrees should be killed. Anybody that can't quite go along with the social credit score system and who doesn't quite fit into our society needs to be retrained or euthanized." I mean, that's the way they have it. Bill Gates, who's hip and thigh with Xi Jinping, called for global socialism 3 years ago, then global vaccine, then claimed there'd be a pandemic while Event 201 was taking place about a global COVID pandemic. Ha 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 ha. And then it actually happened as an attack on Trump and the United States way of life, in which Xi Jinping took a lap, claiming victory over the United States without having to fire a shot. They came back in when rallies had begun, right after the July 4th rally at Mount Rushmore under the presidents, which was not only successful but spread nothing anywhere. Nobody got sick after that. And they spread it all over Texas and California and the South and the West. Another batch that affects children this time. And they're threatening that if anybody does anything, has any freedom or takes the mask off, they're going to bring another batch in here, and another batch, and another batch, and another batch. They're going to bring in, they have 30 batches. They can bring in one every other month. So, by biological warfare, China won the war. Trump is defeated, and he's, cowering in the White House. Not cowering, but he's trying to make the best of it, but he's got no power. He doesn't want to tell that to the American people. The people have hope in him. He's hoping to turn it around some way, somehow. But he's, Washington is defeated by China. And Trish wants to not give up. Well, good luck. I'm just calling it as I see it. See, we don't have to agree in this house to, love and respect each other. I wish we could be that way everywhere. I know there are people that have been telling me that Trump is the Pied Piper, this whole thing from the beginning. No, he is not the Pied Piper from the beginning. We've documented it very carefully all the way through. And if people do think that, then they have to check their own mind. I mean, where were you brainwashed? Did somebody on, there's a lot of shills on YouTube that had, Trump is the Antichrist or whatever. They've missed the whole boat. They missed the whole progression of what's happened. It's really since COVID. Why can't we remember that? Why are people trying to scramble us all? The truth is documented everywhere. It's in plain sight. Yeah, Mormonism. Well, I'm sure there are these naughty beach boys down there in La Jolla probably getting something off the Mormon girls, but if you were just a normal... They must have been 4 or 5 years older than them then in that case, and maybe had a car. Well, I remember my youth. That was painful back then. I remember my parents would go to the racetrack and we get drunk on vodka and orange juice. And they go down to the beach and act like fools. I don't know what I was. 13 or something. Stupid. I knocked it off because I had to. We were playing Little League football. I had to get in shape for that, and then eventually high school football. But gosh, I think of all the stupid things I've done. What did we think we were doing on the vodka and the orange juice? Right? And back then, people were doing lots of pills. The medicine cabinets of the parents, and then on this one guy's bag, he always had to, always begging him for reds, downers. Well, you drink vodka and take downers, you could be dead. I was amazed that that didn't happen. My parents were drug addicts. They were popping, escatrol, dexedrine, then coming down on Librium and martinis and stuff. Everybody was a drug addict back then. Everybody was decadent. I could make a case for we lost the war. We lost our moral compass back in the 60s. We never have recovered it. And that's when the real Marxism, and the influence of China really came in during that period. Right after Nixon opened up China. Remember Nixon opened up China in 1968, 69, 70, that era right there with the very tempestuous 60s. And, he was opening up China, but then China and a lot of politicians got bought by China back then and jumped in bed with them in their maniacal plan to take over the world. It wasn't like we could trust China and let's try to find ways of communication with China. It was like either they rule or we rule, one or the other, but there is no cooperation between nations. And they made that very clear back in the 70s. They made that very clear. They said one day, they were sort of like the Soviets, the idea that one day they would bury us, or we would bury ourselves. With decadence, propaganda, LSD, programmers like Jolyon West and all the other think tanks coming in, trying to socially engineer man to be good and pliable and satanic, meaning weak and easily taken over and gullible, and the result is, as you see, here in New Mexico, this is like the Mexifornia, you know what I mean? It's like a extension of California. People blindly go along with anything they're told. It's the majority. You see every once in a while another thinking person, a person who thinks outside the box, or like with libertarian or constitutional tendencies here and there. But gun owners and people that are more independent thinking, but in the main, they just do what they're told. Yeah. Well, the problem with dying in that state is that you canceled living way back when. So you never lived. So when you die, it doesn't matter. It's just, that's the thing about them. They don't really mind dying if they can get you to die. They don't mind wearing a mask if they can get you to wear one. They don't mind hurting themselves as long as you get hurt. Because they're nothing, you see, because they gave up living because they've had no life. Every thought they've had has been someone else's. Right? That's the nature of the Marxist. It's the collective dream of the utopia. And then on the other hand, it's the totalitarian, stick if you don't get along. So they're afraid of the stick and they want the carrot, the utopia. So they stay perfectly on the path of collectivism, which means that you have negated your own individualism and you have negated God. So you never lived because you never realize what your purpose, your talent, you never had a chance. And I have compassion. A lot of these people never had a chance to live. They grew up being told what to think. They grew up being told what to do, and they never had a life of their own. Well, I haven't done anything good today. I don't know whether Trump can recover his power and influence over the military, and he's had to use this little police force of his, which isn't going to quell any riots whatsoever. And, go into these various towns with this. I think in Albuquerque we get 35 feds. Folks, it's going to take 3,500 feds to lock it up and also to investigate all the people doing all their illegal stuff and deal with it. That are all part of the conspiracy of rioting and tearing down cities and burning it up and really overthrowing the United States, i.e. treason, sedition, for the purpose of instilling a new government based on Marxism, which people in the main won't want and don't want, but doing it by force. Totally unconstitutional, totally illegal, total treason, and they should all be arrested. Are they? No, because the FBI and all these people are going along with it. That's the state I see. I know a lot of you try to be more optimistic than that, but I only see all of our agencies being Marxist. The entire military-industrial complex is Marxist. They all want to fold under the Chinese way of rulership. Marxist. They have given in. Woke culture is ultimately, at the end of the day, what is it? It's not about race. It's about Marxism. And if you know that, you know it all. It's so funny. The people that I have ever heard use expletives like the N-word or calling Mexicans wetbacks and things, awful things like that, they're all leftists. Every one of them growing up. Everyone that made a racial slur that were racist were leftists, were Democrats. Every single one. Oh, I heard Republicans too. But the cliche is that Republicans are all racist and the Democrats are the social liberators. No, the Democrats were the ones mainly with the racial slurs, especially people in entertainment. All the movie people would say all the N-word, the wetback, this, that. They all day long they talk like that. I think it's funny. It's not funny. Just like bullies are not funny. It's not funny. But all day long, and then they go out and shame people for being racist and do this big, dinners and things for equality and all that, when they've always been the one. They make fun of the transgender and this and that and gay people. They're making fun of it all. Slurs on it all. And yet they're the ones who are the reformers. Why is that, folks? Can anyone tell me why that is? Why are they the ones with all the expletives? Why are they the ones who are doing the things that they should be canceled, but they're never canceled? Why aren't they canceled when they do it? People have been beaten down and bullied and gang-stalked. Do I hear any of that stuff out of their mouths? No, I don't. Not at all. Never. Not even once. Whether you're black, white, doesn't even matter. People I know that have been through these spiritual wars and just following the Lord and all that, they get along beautifully with each other. They're hurting. The problem is they can't really know each other because they're hurting so much themselves they can't see outside their own pain sometimes because the pain is too much to bear. But if they can, you tend to see them getting along with people, and they're just grateful to have a friend no matter what color or age. I should write in age, too. Age discrimination, that's horrible. Some of the best things I have ever written or ever done came from age, and, and blow away me as a younger version. But don't tell that, how did I get here? Let's peel back the onion. You know what it is? It's hell. Pure, unadulterated pain and suffering. Because even on your best day, you can't fix it, right? for everybody else. It's if they're hurting and you're okay, it's no good. If they're okay and you're hurting, it's no good. If everybody's okay and nobody's hurting, then it's okay. But what is that ever going to be? Just the nature of the beast itself is suffering. And I, for one, I recognize that there's some design to all this. There is some divine plan that God has. And I think he's walking us through this thing so that we never, ever, ever, ever give up our faith in him. Because without God, folks, without Jesus, really seriously in my life, I would have died, flipped out, jumped off a bridge like my Francesca. I wouldn't be here right now. The only way I made it this far with all this betrayal and nastiness and cowardice all around me, all the Satanists and people that have denigrated life and made it a cheap thing, all of this sludge and grime and unnecessary shit, all this heartbreak over betrayal after betrayal after betrayal of people that aren't worth the, well, they're not worth the dirt they're standing on. And to keep going with a cheerful attitude like I have this morning. It's truly miraculous. But I do have faith that there is a greater future, and that if we can just walk it out with our faith and be a beacon of hope for people and let them know about the gospel, because the only way out of this mess, because if I didn't have, seriously, Jesus lifts me up out of all this. I couldn't even talk about this had I not had the Lord with me, because it would have been so bummed out, it just would have made me bummed out and even more bummed out. I mean, then what's the point of living if you're just bummed out all the time? No, there's a greater hope. People say this too shall pass. Well, it's not this that passes. It's this malaise will pass. I can say that. But this argument about freedom versus slavery, this will not pass, folks. We're all going to have to answer this question within ourselves. Are we willing to become slaves to have it easier? Or are we going to go ahead and fight the good fight and reveal that we have faith because we fight the good fight? We couldn't do it without what? Faith. Proving the faith is there, proving the loyalty to the Lord, proving that we are a conscious, functioning human being, proving that we actually care about people, because if we were slaves, we wouldn't care, but if we were thinking human beings, feeling and compassionate, then we care about other beings. We care about other people. We care about feelings. And when we care, then we hurt. But we're willing to do that because of the greater faith, the greater God, because of God pulling us through this, showing us a bigger picture, the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the ultimate answer to being that mankind becomes the tabernacle of the living God. Ultimately, there is this ultimate purpose. What's the purpose? To become the actual, I hate to say it, but tabernacle of God, a container of God, God within, a being that is a God being. As one, I am. Now, how would one become that? Well, the only way you become that is if God made you that way. Made vessels that were meant to become that. How long can you go feeling that God is not real? Can you get out of bed? I can't even get out of bed when I feel like that. I just have to, Lord, are you there? I'm sorry. I repent. I know you're as close as right here. Always. I have never been suffering alone. When the Lord showed me that movie of Angus McFadden's Robert the Bruce, showing me that there is another human being, there are certain things called honor, pride, freedom, and family and protecting kids, and there was a certain structure to it that I'm sure he would be excoriated for, but one that is basic, that makes you cry, not tears of sorrow, but tears of purpose. Bet you never heard that term before, tears of purpose. Right? Like the same kind of tears you feel if you're going to be leading, you're going into battle. You're going into something, a greater cause than yourself, for a greater purpose than just you. And that is the parallels to Christ's road. I'm not saying that war, I'm not advocating war in order to serve Christ. I'm just saying that greater that greater purpose than oneself. That, die for one's friends. That is really true love. The purpose of training those, protecting those kids even if you die. All those things, those basic values of why we fight. That there was another human being that put it up on the screen in his own way, and I could criticize everything. I'm not going to criticize it because it made me feel. It made me feel like there is a universal human endeavor of family and children and freedom and fighting for those things. That I'm not the only one that thinks that way. There's a lot of people that have that basic instinct is what it is. And those values are, when fought for, when won, bring people to tears. That's really what patriotism was supposed to be about. It was about honoring those who had gone before that sacrificed themselves so that you could be here. What's wrong with that? Honoring, humbling oneself because others have done such great things on your behalf, and recognizing that sacrifice and then honoring it as you honor God, and all those things blend together. And that people that follow that road of appreciation, gratitude, honor, glory, these basic ideas, they tend to have very rich lives, don't they? Because everything has a meaning. Everything makes sense. Why I'm here makes sense. Where I'm going makes sense. At some point, will America draw a line and say, you know what? I'm not going to let this thing go any further. I'm not going to ask for permission or look where I can sign up to get in the fight. I'm just going in the fight. I'm not asking people to allow me into the fight. This is my soil. This is my home. And these people are not going to burn it to the ground. These invaders are not going to have their way, guilting and shaming people for being, family oriented. For being, for wanting to have home and hearth, for wanting to fight for those things, for wanting to have their own free thoughts, for wanting to make their own decisions in life of which way to go. They don't want to be dictated to. So they have to fight for that. Because if you don't fight for it, they're going to tell you what to do every day of your life. Look at how they tell you to put the mask on. And now it's jail time. Now they're throwing you in jail. I mean, it's unreal. Some people, one guy got killed. He wouldn't put the mask on. He goes home. He wouldn't agree to it. The cop shoots him. It's amazing. Of course, you don't hear about that one in terms of social justice, do you? No, I don't. Maybe it wasn't the right skin color. Again, how stupid this has all gotten. It's about Marxism. It's about racism. It's not even about classism. In other words, you haves, have-nots. It's not even really even about that. It's about elitism exerting control over the globe and over every single person through the medical dictatorship and the government dictatorship of Marxist dictatorship installed by the rich, and I put this for irony, white guys. And I haven't heard one person put down the Muslims for their slave trading. And they're trading blacks. Where are the Muslims who are trading blacks getting in trouble? Where's a guy like, say, Jay-Z on this? Or one of these activists, like the guy that started Black Lives Matter, or any of them? Where are they on black enslavement by Muslims? Where's nobody, because that's not what it's about, is it? I rest my case, Your Honor. I just won that case. Bringing the Muslims in, prove my point, done. It's about Marxism. It's about Marxism instilled by, trillionaires on us to keep us down forever. Compact cities, Agenda 2030, ID, make it all one big college campus. Give people their little universal income or credit score where they can wave their arm and the tattoo, the mark of the beast, and then you can go get your bread and your milk. Feel good? There'll be a big picture of Bill Gates you can bow down to and worship for giving you that chance at life to truly be free, to wander around your college campus. And then when you get old enough, pretty soon Gates will say, we don't need old people, as you saw from the murderer, Andy Cuomo, and all the other governors, Whitmer and the other ones, Gavin Newsom and others, murdered old people. People younger than me were murdered. Will there be any justice for that? Not even for one life, even though there were tens of thousands of people that died, that inflated the number of COVID. Probably 2/3 are fake. And the others are the old people that were sent to their deaths in nursing homes, figuring they'd get this pneumonia attack, put them on the ventilators, pop their lungs, another one, $39,000, baby, or $50, whatever amount they're going to pay you for a COVID. The whole political agenda against Trump, and, with the COVID everywhere, inflated testing numbers, everything, and that's how the Democrats won. That's how they won. That's how they beat Trump. It was really the Chinese and, the ultimate, Bill Gates and Gates Foundation and all the other, CIA, military. Trump was beaten by everybody. It was a coup d'etat. Do not blame Trump. I would like to see how much better you would have done if they pulled all that on you. So we'll see. Trish is saying he's going to win the next election. I can't really. I don't like any president. I don't actually like it here either. But I mean, this is the last best hope. Now they're trying to destroy it with the help of 2/3 of our people. They can't wait to. Oh God. Do you think one day they'll see how stupid they were and repent? Do you think they'll ever do that? One day they'll say, I was taken advantage of. They told me it was this when it was really that. They said it was all about, police brutality and all the harm to black people and all that. It was all about that and the fact that, this nation's been cruel and they've been bad deal and we need reparations and we need all this to fix all that, when it was really about Marxism using one to get the other. Is there a movement for black people and justice that is devoid of Marxist control and that cares about the same issues around the world? like, for example, current enslavements. I rest my case. I win as usual. And what do I think about social justice? I think that, and the whole idea of the whites should commit suicide because of white privilege or be killed. To me, all this is absurdity. I mean, I can see how. Well, I live in a place where there's Hispanic privilege in New Mexico. And it's not that big, different, but it is Hispanic preferred, what I mean, because it is all Hispanic, except for, some of us from outside that have come in, me from LA, other people from New York and into Santa Fe and whatnot. Sometimes they have a second home here, but it's been mainly Hispanic for the longest time, from the beginning, from the Spanish land grant days. And is there a privilege thing that goes on? Well, to be honest with you, I feel more discrimination because of age than ethnicity. But, every once in a while you feel a prejudice. I know what it feels like. I've had it quite a bit in my life. I had it in Hawaii as well. How does that make me feel? I've had it where everybody in the line got served but me until they were all dealt with. Like, I was passed over and over again. Finally, I got to buy my articles in a little country store in Maui. Everybody. But, then finally the haole gets to have, buy some toothpaste and a protein bar. I mean, it was that in my face. It was just like, wow, blacks will be over here, whites will be over there. It's on that level. So yes, I've experienced it, but the worst I experienced of feeling like I should never even live, like I should never have ever been bored, like I should never breathe, not one more time, was at the hands of gang stalkers that made me feel like committing suicide when I was a teenager, because I was, never going to be accepted and always going to be followed and chased and ruined. And no endeavor that I would do, I'd be allowed to do, and everything would just be ruined forever. And that was because I did not consent, obviously, to murdering children. And so, no, I mean, I know that sounds insane, but that's really ultimately, ask Trish. She knows my story, yeah. Because it's really not tied to a specific incident, but just that you would have something against other people being that corrupt. You would judge them. And so you can't get in there unless you are willing to give up your judgmentalness and your free will and look the other way on that kind of corruption. Whether it be murder, whether it be, whatever it is, sex, murder, any of those things, that if there's an objection, they can't let you in exactly. So they're going to stalk you to get rid of you because you're a threat, because you might talk about things you've seen, let's say. So you're born in one of these families, you'd seen things, so got to discredit you so you don't say anything. When they do that to you, you feel super alienated. Like, not only do you not belong, but you should have never been. You spend your life apologizing to people for breathing, for existing, embarrassed that you're a conscious being, feeling like a freak and super embarrassed, upset, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, just laughed at, rocks thrown at, set up for death, and betrayed at every turn. You feel so awful. You feel so bad. You can't believe you're even living another day. You wish you were dead. Wish. And then many people just They don't wish anymore. They do it. But if they do it, usually they've been having a death wish for more than a decade. A decade of being ashamed. A decade of feeling not just unloved, but not deserving of any love. Deserving of only pain and betrayal and suffering. Yeah, well, that's how they feel. Becoming shut-ins. Forever staying shut in and asking, is it okay if I breathe? Is it okay if I have a thought? May I go make myself a cup of tea? Please don't beat me. Please stop beating me. Well, where are they? Zeph, where are they? Well, they're in my head. They're all around, but you can't see them. It's conditioned from a long time ago, I guess. I think that may not be a feeling of racism, but I think that really feels bad. I mean, that feels like, the whole point of like racism is trying to bully somebody else because they're not the right skin color or something. Well, there's bullying other people because they're not the right person. They're not the right sort of person. They're not the right, they should never have been made in the first place because we, the abusers, run this place. A normal person that's being abused, they shouldn't be here. But if the abuser did not have an abusee, the abuser would cease to exist as well. Okay, now, that's all I can do. That's it. We're going to go. We got to turn this into a comedy hour. What do you think, Trish? Trish is ready for a comedy hour. How about you? I'm sorry. I blew off a lot of steam, but I mean, you get into these chasms, into these dead ends where you can no longer process information. They let you down. My boys let me down. We're going to meet on the front lines. And they never showed up. We're going to fight the Hun. And they never showed up. We're going to fight to save this country. And they never showed up. The bikers, right? You hear about them. Where are they? They never showed up. And yeah, they're going to show up. They're in their homes wearing their masks while they're burning down the cities. Yeah, but they're not supposed to be out there, and they're not wearing masks. That's right. Any idea what this is, buddy? Something going on here, but you don't know what it is, do you, Mr. Jones? Yeah, that song. If the shoe. Yes, well, if that applies, apply it. Yeah, it's tough. And we'll see you next time. God bless you. I'll be praying for you. I'm praying for all of us to find a solution. But I have to say where we are now, don't we? I mean, are we allowed to, hello, we're here now, so we have to dig out? Zeph just wants to go back to the totalitarian white supremacist policies of the past. No, I don't need white supremacy. I live in a Hispanic state here. I'm fine with that. I don't need white people here. Or to have white rule. I'm fine the way it is. Where do you live in a minority state? Where you're a minority? You don't. I can't solve it. I can't solve it. Good to be here.
This time of year, time to celebrate your great victory. Come on up here, Buck. All right, girls, show him what he's won. This is your life, Buck. Look at all the people here to cheer you on. Oh, don't mind that. That's the vat of blood. Now you might wonder, what is he up to now? Get that spotlight on Buck. Hey, Buck, come on up here and get your reward. Girls, show him what he's won. All eyes on you. 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 Good to be here this time of year. I know you think you know where you're going, but don't you understand? We're always there, ahead of you, Buck. Buck? Now, I didn't want this to happen. You're not supposed to be afraid. You're a big, strong man. Remember that. Girls, show him what he's won. The only problem is, only the dead go there. We'll be there, waiting. 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 We'll be there. We'll be there, waiting.